Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Sissy. How was your week this week, Sissy?
I had a good week, Lance. How was yours?
It was exciting. Like we talked about on the last program. This time of year is always exciting. I was waiting by the phone for the election results to come in as they did, and that was real exciting. And it's always a good time for us, political nerds. Mm-hmm. Is that okay, Sarah? Are we political nerds, Sissy?
Oh, sure. Fangirls. Well, I'm a fangirl. You're a fanboy.
Fan persons.
Fan persons.
Yeah, I think
I forget.
Inclusivity is the way to go.
Yes. Yeah. We're fans of the political process.
Absolutely. Well, there's been a lot going on over the last week. As you get to the point in an election when everything's pretty much been done, and you're going to have like a Monday and a Tuesday, and people are just going to go out and vote as they may, and there's not much you're going to do at that point to sway anybody anyway, one way or the other. So I was starting to read some of the Kansan and things that they had in the few days of paper. The last Saturday, November 4th paper, there was an article about the playground fund that it announced it has matching funds.
Awesome. And that's the playground at the all-inclusive playground at the Slate Creek Elementary School?
Yeah. Uh-huh. And basically, just read this blip real quick, and thanks the Newton Kansan for this. In 2021, students at the Slate Creek Elementary began the dream of a new playground, one where their friends and special education program could play alongside them. In 2021, those students raised more than $20,000 in spare change for playground equipment. In the end, so together, I guess, now there's an All Together Now campaign, and fundraising has reached more than $100,000.
That's awesome.
So I don't know I know it said in the article how much the total funding that they were looking for was. I think it's maybe like $400,000 maybe. But they got a huge match funding deal where they were able to get a big boost. You can still, to this day, I believe, donate if you'd like to donate to that fund.
Awesome.
So I wanted to cover that. Obviously we didn't have that news right away when we were doing our last program. Did you go to the pancake feed, Sissy?
I didn't. Okay. Yeah, it was a work day for me and couldn't just quite get it together afterwards just to go down there for supper. So
went down there for lunch myself.
Yeah.
I have a group of gentlemen and others who like to meet on Tuesdays for tacos usually, and in light of the election and the pancake feed, we all went down there to do the pancake feed. I know there's an article in the Kansan on Thursday, November 9th, which would be today, and it talks about the Lions Club host their 77th pancake feed, and it's always a good event. But to think 77 years
on 11/7.
Yeah. Imagine that. So, amazing. I was just picking through the papers. Once again, shout out to the Kansan for some of the stuff that was in the papers. Appreciate everything they do. And speaking of the Lions Club, there's another thing I want to cover.
Yeah.
The Lions Club seeks entries for Parade of Lights. The Newton's Lion Club is seeking participants for the annual Parade of Lights to kick off the Christmas season. Have you ever been to the Parade of Lights, Sissy?
Nope,
It's great. It's awesome. Entries must have a minimum of 200 lights and a Christmas theme. Business clubs, churches, nonprofits, and school groups are encouraged to participate with floats, vehicles, or walking groups. There's no fee to participate. You just need to let them know that you want to be doing that. If you want to do that, the parade is scheduled for 6:30 on December 7th. It said that there'll be hot chocolate served along Main Street and photos with Santa after the parade. So that'll be fun. Santa will be there. And then anybody interested in participating should contact Aaron McDaniel at 316-284-6055 or visit NewtonLionsClub.com to download an entry form.
There you go.
So if you want to do that, get your entry forms in. It's an awesome time. Try to catch that every year, and it's quite the event.
Yeah.
Honestly,
well, speaking of holiday events, I don't like to go right to Christmas. I like to enjoy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we're not even Thanksgiving yet.
Giving thanks for the harvest, whatever the harvest might be. The 28th annual Community Thanksgiving Dinner will be held at Grace Community Church, I believe, as it is each year, as at 1600 South Anderson in Newton on Thursday, November 23rd. The meal will be served from 11:30 to 1:30. There is no charge for the meal. I am certain that they would take a free will donation if you are so inclined to help that thing be perpetuated again next year. The menu looks awfully tasty. It's turkey and ham, mashed potatoes and gravy, dressing, corn, green beans, cranberries, rolls, pie cake, coffee, tea. Dine-in, delivery, and carry-out are available this year. And for free delivery, you need to call 316-283-2554 to set that up. So,
that sounds good. I was thinking when you were saying that, how enjoyable Thanksgiving is, the time that you spend with family, and all the good food that you get to eat. So I got to pop the question. What is your favorite Thanksgiving entree?
Well, I don't really have a favorite entree. I think freshly baked rolls are probably the thing I look forward to most because traditionally at my Thanksgiving dinner, someone always brings fresh bread. So I always look forward to that. This year, I hope to try my own hand at making either rolls or sliced bread, or maybe even some cinnamon rolls. So we'll see. Pray for those that attend, that if in case there is something not quite has gone awry with my concoction.
Like any loved ones,
there'll be guinea pigs.
Like any loved ones at any family gathering who's having any kind of food to eat, you just choke it down with a smile,
right?
And you don't tell the person anything about it. It's the best that you've had.
Yeah,
because they took the time.
Yeah,
Well,
I usually try new things before the big day, but we'll see on that. But as far as like meat or potatoes or something like that, I gotta say I'm a white meat kind of gal on the turkey, but I do like a good baked ham. So it's a toss up for me.
Yep. I like
whatever
it
you
all.
have. If you took time to fix it and you invited me to eat it, I love it.
I'm gambling between my two favorite. I guess I will not entrees necessarily as sides, right? Okay, sides, rolls as sides. But I like cream corn. I like a specific cream corn made with cream cheese.
Oh, in the crock pot?
Yes.
Yep.
And I like, and it's a tie between deviled eggs.
Oh.
Or doubled eggs, or whatever they call them.
Angel eggs.
Angel eggs.
Isn't that what it is?
I don't know.
Can't say deviled eggs anymore.
The eggs that are good.
I suppose angel eggs is just as bad.
Any connotation to anything like that is just bad right now. It's creating world wars.
But yes, it's deviled as in not like the red one.
Yes.
But deviled as in the way you mix up the yolks with the goodness and put them back in. Yeah.
The best.
Do you like them with paprika and olives on them?
No. I like it with paprika. I don't like it with onions, and I don't like olives.
Oh, yeah. See, I like all the goodness in there.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of this, there was something that I wanted to talk about in brief. I noticed in the paper, and I just had a question about it. I wonder. I realized that this time of year is a good time of year where when I was a kid, everybody was having, Christmas programs. That's what we called them at that time anyway. We were having Thanksgiving programs, the whole thing. We did, I think everybody my age or younger did this, or older did this. And I'm a fan of this time of year, right? I like to go see the programs, and I've had, my kids were younger and they sing the songs, and it's cute.
Right,
and I like this whole thing. But I noticed on the front page that the NH Drama was producing a play based on the Sandy Hook tragedy. And I kind of took me back for a second because I thought, what do I think about that? Right? I mean, just kind of thinking I see the point, right? And I actually saw it when I was walking into a convenience store, and I saw the headline, and I thought, well, man, I want to get the paper to read that, but I'm already getting a paper today when the mail comes. Just wait till my paper gets here. But it says here that the Newton High School Drama Department is about to stage a production with heavy themes and tragic backstory. Dealing with deep subjects is something we all go through in the human experience. I think that part of our job as educators is to help students grow, and not just in content knowledge, said Jessica Heydrich, drama instructor at Newton High School. They are taking a look at the 2012 Sandy Hook Elementary School shootings with the script 29 Pebbles. The fear of school shootings is something that everyone in a school, from teachers to staff to students, has to deal with on a daily basis, Heydrich said. We have mandated drills for them. My first day of work, they walked us through what to do in the case of a school shooter. It's reality we've all faced in some way or another, and with our active shooter scare, a couple of years ago, I don't see how anyone could argue the subject matter isn't relevant. And, I thought that, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not thinking this is a bad thing, Sissy. I understand that throughout history and time, we've used drama and theater to be able to talk about some deep messages, right? Sometimes, like in the past, it would speak out against tyrannical governments, or at other times it was, there was always something that was actually being spoke in drama and theater that could be felt, and seen and experienced. And I was wanting to get somebody else's take on that. I mean, what do you think about just a school drama program in general? Basically, exactly what it says. They're going to produce a play based upon the Sandy Hook tragedy. And anybody remembers this, it was where there was 26, right? 20, how many was it? 26 children, that lost their life due to somebody that was experiencing, if we could say the most PC way is a mental health crisis. And there's no excuse, but still. And I ask, like, man, that's awful heavy. Is that the point? What do you think, Sissy?
Well, as a parent, I'm not super jazzed about the youngsters getting that stuff in their head, eat, sleep, and memorize those lines for however long it's going to take. But just like with what I posted about my mini Sissy going with me to vote, and it's never too early to expose to civic processes. I suppose in this day and age we live in, unfortunately, in this dark world, I suppose high school students, they're inundated already with these kinds of heavy themes, as they said. So, you kind of got to put yourself in check, I guess, and say, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And if, in case by case basis, if a child goes through this and decides that this is not for them, then they can make a course correction for the next drama production. But, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't want to ramble on, but
I'm not trying to judge.
I was surprised to see it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So that's it. Yeah. I just wouldn't have gone. That thought would have never gone on my plane.
Well, is there ever a time, I guess the deeper question I'm finding myself asking, is there a time in which certain things that are just off limits that we're not going to, I'm a person about taking something and saying, okay, what's equal to the trauma that was experienced on this day? Okay. Man, is there anything except for something like it? Let's say, okay. So let's talk through it and say that, well, we're not living out a play about some atrocity that might have happened during the slavery era, right?
Okay.
There's some stuff that you just don't reenact, right? We're not going to reenact the abuses of what an African American slave suffered when they, tried to run for their freedom, right? People would look at that and go, what? And I'm not saying that this is the same thing, but I'm just, I remember when this happened, right? I remember this. I remember just a little while back, the scare that we had where kids were running for cover over something, it is something that's very real in our world today. And I'm not being critical of what they're trying to accomplish. I understand that, but I don't know, even myself, where would this end? If we are acting out a play in which children were massacred, let's just be real, at the hands of somebody, what's different than reenacting something similar that's this atrocity that happens to an individual in some other form or fashion?
Right.
Just my question. Right. I don't know why. Maybe it struck me different. I was just interested what your take was on that, Sissy.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to wait and see. We don't know what kind of presentation it's going to be. Could be that it's like some of the other documentaries that we've seen where, the setup is role playing, where they portray based on transcripts or, stories
like
from survivors, right? Just to, I don't know. I would, again, personally, I would not wish to put myself in that headspace, and I'm an old fogey who's seen a lot of life and a lot of different traumas and those kinds of things, and they're young people still, right? And I know that they are aware of it, but will it add to? Will it enhance knowledge, or will it be knowledge that is a detriment in the long run? I don't know. These children have lived with social media and the internet their entire lives, right? So, and it's possible that even maybe some of their staff, their teachers and things also. So, you and I come from an era where that we were adults when that came through.
Yeah.
And that, knowledge at your fingertips 24/7.
Yeah.
That was a new thing for us. And a lot of these things we did not, if we heard about it, it was, after the fact. It wasn't real time. It was, it was presented in a certain kind of way with certain kind of information. There was some self-editing and some parameters put on it. Now it's just no holds barred. It's out there. Well, here you go. Take it in, and this is what it is.
And I don't want to dwell on this because I'm not being negative about this at all.
Yeah.
I just noticed it, and I know sometimes there's things that my children bring home from the school, and I ask myself, why is this reading material necessary?
Right.
And I have conversations with them, and I know there's mechanisms, but we have family discussions over some of the stuff in the literature that my students, children are reading, and I ask why some of it has to be what it is and why it has to be so graphic in my own home. But I know I'm not it's just interesting. I mean, it's 2012. That's when that happened, right? So that's 11 years ago, right? Okay, we're on 11 years now, right?
Well, in December, it'll be 11 years.
Okay, and the children that passed were about 5, right?
5 or 6,
So that this group of people that are acting this out are the 26, let's say, survivors. Because if you look at the dates, then right now, the children that are performing this were the same age as the children that lost their lives in Sandy Hook in 2012.
Right.
So when you think about it on a deeper level, like I said, I don't want to dwell here, but I know I'm just bringing this to you, Sissy, and I'm thinking about this, and I just, I don't want to be critical. I'm not judging. I just see that, and that invokes a lot of things because, of course, my children were close to that age when that happened. And in today's world, how do you not personalize knowing that there were, these children that were my children. My kids are that age, and some person went in there and did that to this could have been my kids.
Right.
Yeah. By the grace of God, there go I.
Yeah.
I mean, so with all of that this brings up, I just want to know what you thought about it, Sissy.
Yeah. So on a topic change, but relevant to the community, did you know that you can sign up for email and text alerts from the city about emergencies, water main breaks, trash pickup schedules, and more? Did you know that?
I did.
I did not know that.
I have signed up for that.
And to sign up for that, if you're interested in that, folks. And me, myself, so what I'll do when I go home, it's newtonkansas.com/e-news. That's newtonkansas.com/e-news to be put on the alert list for those things.
And you can fill out polls. They have actual polls that they'll send you if you're signed up that you can take for just like they're just asking questions to see what the heartbeat of the community is at that moment and what you feel or how you feel or what you think should be done. And I think that's a great thing to do. It's a great way that Newton city government has reached out and evolved over time and just becomes that much more accessible and transparent to the people. That's like, Sissy, I mean, I was critical in the beginning, but as we've moved forward, the city has made a lot of very good changes that are beneficial to the community members. And you can't just be focused on, the things you can't change.
Right.
Focus on the things you can change.
Right.
And then, have a better day.
Yeah. Well, and this will benefit the folks that don't check the social medias, like the Facebook. Yeah. I mean, they put a lot of information very quickly out on the social media or Facebook specifically. And I know they're on Twitter as well. So for me, I get the alerts from the city most of the time. But for those that maybe aren't on the social medias, then they'll get that right to their email box or text message to their own phone. So it could get there even quicker. So
speaking of government, okay, what are you thinking about what's going on right now with the wind energy ban, the energy ban? I mean, I know we're not going into a whole lot. I just I'm not. I mean, I know not to revisit the same thing again, right? But it seems as though that's the track that they're on, is just to shut it down, and it's difficult for me because we just need to unpack it one day for somebody. It's like in the beginning, the combustion engine was not as efficient and didn't work the way that it did. Cars in the past couldn't go as long as they can go now, and I'm a fan of clean energy because of things like this. No, it's not necessarily profitable, but neither was it really back in the day when they started making planes, trains, and automobiles. Right. It just had to evolve. And so I'm a fan to say, hey, I know that big old eyesore of a windmill isn't necessarily what I want to see on the horizon, but I know that over time, technology will advance, and these will get smaller, and they'll produce more power.
Yeah.
That's truly my belief.
Here's the thing. This is, I personally think that if a landowner wants to go into business with the renewable energy folks, then it's their own land. They should be able to do it. If they're away from community, they're away from schools, they're away from churches where there'll be lots of human beings, and other places like stockyards, feedlots, things like that, where people are raising for their livelihood, raising livestock, living things, right? Obviously, we can't have giant equipment that could fail and fall onto those locations, or, I'm all about conserving the aquipeds and the groundwater, so I know all those parameters are in place, but why go ahead and go the extra mile just to say, no, you can't do that? If that landowner meets all those criteria and those constraints, right? Yeah. So that's where I have a problem with it, because there's no free enterprise anymore. It's all regulated to death. Yeah.
Well, what is it about in our local community that the people that are the most vocal about it not taking place are the same ones that in the same breath talk about personal liberty?
Right. And I know that if somebody watches, the first thing that they're going to argue with me about is that there is an allowance for personal use. Yeah. Well, what if that landowner
What if I want to make money off my land? What if the way I want to make money off my land is by putting solar panels on it?
And they should be able to enter into a contract with a renewable energy company on their own terms, as long as they have met the brief. And they would. I mean, any common sense person that's wanting to, most people want to follow the rules, right? Because it benefits everybody. I mean, they don't get it going, spend all this money and commit themselves and then get shut down by the government, right? Yeah. So I just don't understand. I don't understand that part.
And then talking about banning things, okay? Maybe we're in agreement on this, but my belief is that the government is not necessarily and should not necessarily, especially when it comes to certain things, be in the business of banning something, right? It'd be like them coming up and saying, well, we're just going to ban alcohol. Nobody can drink alcohol anymore. It's not really the government's job. The government's job is to put appropriate regulations and parameters around that to make sure that it's safe for the consumer and that the business is meeting whatever expectations they need to meet through regulations. That's just common practice, right? So when we get into a situation where instead of us asking our governmental agency to put the appropriate parameters on things so that way people can do business, like say, hey, you can have windmills, you just can't have them there. You can have them here. Or you can have them on properties where, this meets the requirement or that meets the requirement. But to completely make it to where there can be no economic development in the form of what we would call clean energy has seemed to be a very politically motivated thing at this point in time. And speaking of politically motivated things, what about the election system?
Yeah.
I would first like to say, before we get into local stuff, that it was very comforting to see that Brandon Whipple was no longer going to be the mayor of Wichita.
Yeah. Yeah. Lily Wu.
Yeah, Lily Wu. Not only beat Whipple, but stomped Whipple into the ground. And I know a lot of people are wondering, well, how do we have these flips? Like, Brandon Whipple, 4 years ago when he ran for mayor, he didn't win by a large margin, but he won. And then in a matter of 4 years, he deduced himself down to what people would know as just a sneaky, slithery politician. Everybody remembers how much he loves law enforcement.
Right.
And then to go out during your campaign and say that law enforcement backs you, when law enforcement then has to come out and say, no, they don't, sorry. That's kind of like sticking your foot in the mouth.
Yeah.
And Lily Wu smashed it. So as far as our neighbors to the south, I'm so thankful that our neighbors to the south refused to allow for that type of leadership to be maintained. I mean, I think we're going to see a change in Wichita, a culture change. It's been an amazing thing. And I hate to say it, even though I personally feel we have a few people like that running for election here in our community, as I've expressed in the past. We got the results, didn't we, Sissy?
Yeah, I just pulled up a screenshot I took once. What was the link called that Rick Pifo put out that we could go and check that? I can't. In it, Clarity or something like that.
Yeah, Clarity, Real Clarity.
Yes. So I was watching that. And finally, when it said 100%, I took a screenshot for this very purpose so we could discuss this. And I have to say, I was not surprised Melissa Schreiber took the lead. I was, however, surprised that Mallory Morton took third with Ian Long running second. And Erica Stevens was fourth. Sarah Getchell, Scott Zimmerman, Heidi Hoskison, and Michael Chris bringing up the remaining spots. And another thing I was surprised about was the amount of write-ins. It's like, who are they writing in?
Well,
the thought would have never occurred to me. There was so many running to. I barely keep the names and faces straight, but I'm terrible with names. I know that person. That person's running for school board.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So, but anyway, and it was fairly close.
It flipped a couple times towards the end.
Second and third place, 4 votes.
Yeah.
4 votes. Yeah. So, yeah. Very
interesting. If you look at that, what I see is very, very interesting is that there were so many people that, when you look at the split, it was pretty close. And your 5th, 6th, 7th, these other individuals carried quite a few votes. What was the end of, what Sarah Getchell get in the end and what Heidi Hoskinson get in the end?
Sarah, 1,130. And who would you ask?
Heidi Hoskinson.
1,069. Yeah. Scott Zimmerman was in the middle of them with 1,095.
That's a lot of people voting that didn't vote for the top. They did vote for the top 4 getters, obviously, but that's a lot of, usually it's not that high, right? As far as the people that did not win. So it was still only 9,367 voters. And that's including mail-out ballots that were received back in, early voters at the courthouse, and poll site voters on Election Day. That is like just a smidgen over 1% of the population of this town. Yeah.
1%.
And it's even worse because if you look at both the city commission race and the school board race, less than 20% of people that were registered to vote went and voted.
Right.
So.
Yeah. That's.
I don't know. We're people that want to be involved, but these are really important races.
Well,
these are
and
very,
how do
very
we
important races.
Impress the need to engage civically. You and I, this is what we talk about. We encourage people, because if you are given an opportunity as a citizen of this country, no matter where you live within the United States and any of the territories, is from what I understand, you have the right to vote as long as you are a good citizen, right? And that is your ability to participate in your government. I think people have forgotten, and maybe it's a lack of civics education or not, I don't know. But I think people have forgotten, or maybe never learned in the first place, that the government is made up of we the people, us citizens, right? And I know that we send someone by proxy to speak for us, but if we do not vote and exercise our voice as part of this governing process, we absolutely, what are we doing? We're just kind of hanging out in life, right? We're just kind of sucking up society.
Going back to the 20%, it blows my mind because, we're talking about people that are registered to vote. That's all that care about who is in charge of what's going on at our school with our kids and at the city. That's all more that care what the city's doing. Does it come down to a care, whether I care or not?
Well,
what is the major malfunction here?
The first time the school board meets and makes a decision that people in the community do not agree with, someone will say something on the social media. And I promise you, they most likely did not vote.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's a greater percentage, greater odds that that's the case, that I'm making an assumption on, than someone that went out, found out who they were, attended the forums, watched them online, talked to the, emailed, called, tried to find out as much as they could about the candidates, and voted.
Yeah.
Whether their candidate won or not. We can't complain. We really cannot complain if we have not participated in the outcome. And I know there was one person I voted for that did not get a seat on the city commission.
Same thing.
And so should I be angry and call out the city commission for the next however many years until the next election because I'm sore about it?
Yeah.
Well, heck no. No, I'm going to dive in and I'm going to watch and I'm going to pay attention and I'm going to reach out and I'm going to interact with the people that did get elected and look at it from the big picture, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Well, my hope is Melissa killed it, right? And the way it works is the board members are the ones that pick the board president, right? They're the ones that elect. I just hope, and I say this, I hope that in the future we'll see somebody else get an opportunity to be the board president and have the opportunity to provide better leadership. I realize that elections have consequences, and I've been awful vocal about some of these people that are running. But now that that's the case, and they're the ones that were elected, I congratulate them and want to give them not going to say. I mean, I'm kind of excited to see what Ian Long's going to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I when I saw the results come in, it was no more than the first thought in my head was, well, Ian worked his butt off.
He did.
He worked his butt off. He went out there, and I guarantee you he was knocking on doors. I guarantee you he was investing money in his campaign. I guarantee you he was going through everything that he needed to go through, including some growing pains, right? To be able to come to this point in which, if elected, that he can have something to contribute to the betterment of USD 373. And I truly believe that's why he's there. Mine may not agree on all of our things and policies and everything. I tell that with people, but it really comes down to character for me, Sissy.
Sure.
Melissa Schreiber, great person. So thankful that she was elected and that in the community people saw that she was very passionate about being a school board member, that when there were tough decisions to be made, she did it, that when there were everybody else talking, she was doing. And it showed. It showed. And I'm optimistic going forward that Ian's going to do a good job. I believe that Stevens is going to do a good job. And I think just with the people that we've got on there now, that hopefully we're going to see a positive, progressive change going forward in the future.
Right. Right. And, with the city too, I didn't really want to get into a whole lot of discussion beforehand because for me, it was kind of I could see through the end of that, and it turned out just almost exactly like I thought. Like I said, there was one person I voted for that didn't get a seat, and someone else did that I did not vote for. But I think the main thing with these two specific bodies of government, there are some things, some whoopsie daisies. There's been some poor decision making. There's been some poor strategies, I think, on both of their parts.
Yeah.
Over time, though, if you look at the positive momentum, there have been more positive shifts than there have been negatives.
Well,
and for both bodies over the last few years,
sissy.
right?
I might argue with
and
you on
so,
that.
I think that both bodies now can take a collective deep breath and exhale it out and say, okay, let's get to it. And now we can start on the positive foot and get going better than where we were at a few months ago. Right. Now the city, they've been doing a lot of great things, but the school board has really struggled. Last spring was a terrible time.
Well, and
so,
city too,
we need to learn. We need to learn from it. And I think that my hope is the people that got elected those are the people that I supported for the most part because of their strategies, their perspective, and I know it was a campaign season, right? Yep. So take it with a grain of salt. But I think that because they're local politics and because these people are community members, you see them at the doctor's office, you see them at where they work, you see them at their business,
they're your
you
neighbors.
see that, you see parent events, things like that. You really can't put yourself out there and say a whole lot of good things about I'll do everything and then be a member of the same community that will figure out that you were just blowing hot air to get elected.
Yeah.
It doesn't work well when we have such a small community. Yeah. And I've told you 100 times, Newton is like the biggest little city I've ever lived in, right? It's still a community. Yes, there's a lot of people here. Yes, we're spread out, but you can't go too far in town without running into somebody a couple of times. Yeah. So
if you and especially if you're involved, I'm surprised at the amount of people that stand right next to their school board person or their city commissioner and don't even know they're standing right next to them.
Yeah.
I guess a little bit deeper on the city commission side. Stinnett is a good man. He's a rock star. He's done well. He's done everything he said he was. I believe he makes good decisions for my community. I'm glad he wants to serve in that way. Because I'm sure he's not doing it for the paycheck. These people make $120, I think, when it's all said and done a month. I'm not saying that, anybody should be complaining, but it's not done for the money. Right. It's not done for the paycheck, But at the same time, we saw Miss Valentine get 4 years too. So she's going to be on there for another 4 years. And then we saw a newcomer, Melanie Watson, get on there. My question to you is this. Why do you think that the people that did get elected, or I'll reframe this. What do you think the challenges of Thompson were in Van Meter that maybe they weren't successful?
Well, I don't know that I can pinpoint a failure. Or something that they either did or didn't do that was a mistake. Even Miss Watson, she did not campaign. She went on the forum, and both Mr. Van Meter and Mr. Thompson were both at the forum. So there was a second one for them. Yeah. And then, and that's great. I'm glad that they did that, right? Because they put themselves out there. They were able to be asked questions. They were able to. People saw a living human being that responded, right? Yeah. So that's good, right? Because it's one thing to not even be at an event like that, right, where you're visible to the community. Yeah. But all three of those candidates specifically. Yes, they might have had signs. Yes, they may have put a couple of posts up on the social media, but that's the extent of it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that we're all familiar with Rich and Kathy because they're incumbents.
Know them.
We know them from the community. It's possible that maybe if they would, the other three would have been out in the community and, going to different events and things like that. I don't know. I really don't know if they would have reached any more voters than voted.
Yeah.
Right. I appreciated hearing what they had to say.
Yeah.
And I think that there's going to be another opportunity. There always will be.
Yeah.
They can throw their hat in the ring again.
2 years from now.
And I could say the same thing for the school board candidates.
Yeah.
Right. So.
What do you think is with the power of incumbency? It's strong, Sissy. I mean, it's strong no matter who you are. If you're somebody that is a current elected official, you're the one that gets invited to all the parties. You're the one that gets invited to all the places and all the things, right? And so with that, you get to go to those places and things and parties and whatever it may be, and you wear that badge of who you are.
Right.
And so your relationship then grows from that to be, well, the incumbent with a badge, with a title that you go and in some cases, I hate to say it, manipulate people. In other cases, maybe there's an ulterior motive there. And I'm not saying that's the case in all situations, but all the incumbents were reelected. I'm 100% sure that if Clint would have ran again, he probably would have been reelected, 100% and probably. But I believe if Clint were to run again, that he would have been reelected. So therefore, all the incumbents would have been reelected there. And the only reason I think that all the incumbents weren't necessarily elected on the other side was because, well, they were just vacant seats. So what is it about the power of incumbency, Sissy? Tell me.
Well, I think there's a familiarity there.
Yeah.
Right. And I think people, not necessarily voters, but I think people in general are leery of change, right? And there's always a hope. And this, for me, I'm an optimist to some degree still. The world has not made me totally cynical, thankfully. But I think that for me and for others, I think there's a group of people out there that are very hopeful that those people are going to change. Well, they're disappointing me, but if I revote them in or reelect them, then something will change, right? Yeah. And there's some negative connotations to looking at it that way, but at the same time, a leopard doesn't change its spots and a tiger doesn't change its stripes. Yeah. So I think that when you have an incumbent, and we see this oftentimes in the presidency, right, where you have a president that is up for re-election, and there's a newcomer that is very close to changing your mind as voting for the incumbent. Yeah. But you go ahead and vote the incumbent, and it's a total dive, right? Because they got cocky and got reelected, right? And I say got cocky because, that's what happens. Yeah. And then so they don't do anything for 2 years, and then all of a sudden, oh, I'm going out and I can't be reelected, so I'm just going to kind of lay off, right? And let whatever happen. And we see that all the time. And so in the smaller politics, I think that it's so visible, it's so readily available to people of the community, it's so overwhelming. Yeah. Right. And you have to get out of your house and you have to go to the community breakfast. You have to go to the banquets. You have to put yourself out there in order to be able to get to know people. And I can tell you, I'm not a social butterfly. You are a social butterfly, right? I am not. I am perfectly fine being behind the scenes and say, oh, hey, right. Hey, Sissy, hey, how you doing? I don't know you, but I know you. I don't know what your name is, but hey, how you doing? And admiring people and listening and paying attention from a distance. I'm completely fine with that.
You're an observer.
I don't like to be on Front Street. Yeah. And so I am really good at being able to observe, listen, watch, strategize. broaden my perspectives if I need to, And that's what I'm hoping will happen with these two changes. We have some new people on these two bodies. We have some older folks, incumbents, some dated folks that are on these boards and on these bodies. Then let's see what happens. Yeah. The next year is going to prove things out. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And speaking of elections and election time, and we talked about the Whipple losing to Lily, we'll have to say it again. And I don't care who you are, I don't care what political party affiliation you are. There's just no need for that kind of behavior and conduct to be attached to any public office or public official. It's below us as community members. I'm not even from Wichita. It's a shame that in the largest city in the state of Kansas, we had to put up with that. And that person should take the walk of shame on out the door. Yeah. Because who they really were was exposed. But speaking of all of this, are you keeping up on any of these debates? I mean, I caught a little bit of one, and it's just like almost just deflated. Yeah. And then you hear all of the trumped up charges that are happening to Trump and all of the people that are at their wits' end when it comes to that. Yeah. Coupled with the fact that now we're finding out that the Biden family is really the Biden crime family. And it's so bad that they literally have now evidence to show that the Biden family just deals in diamonds, folks. Oh, yeah. Why diamonds? Well, because nobody tracks diamonds. So now we have this international, and if you don't believe me, look it up. Yeah, this is all very, very credible because it's all been brought up during what? Senate committee hearing, these committees that are currently looking at whether or not there's anything there. And it's almost to the point, who knows, Sissy, I might not be around after tonight. You never know. I know how you think about conspiracies and whatnot. So if anything happens to me, this is why, or could be. Yeah. But the FBI and CIA are complicit in it. I've mentioned many times in the past about the government bureaucracy growing so great that the elected officials are really just nothing. Like they look at them and laugh at them, and think about it. You've got, let's say you have all of this evidence, and the FBI had agents that were watching the Biden family for this type of stuff, and they still became the president. And then you wonder, well, how in goodness gracious and why in goodness gracious is all of a sudden the FBI seem to be I don't know, they're going after, their political opponents. It's almost like you say, the FBI and the CIA is going after Biden's political opponent. But instead, it seems to me that they're just going after their political opponent and not going after elected officials who don't oppose their political ideology. And, the FBI and CIA are not a political ideological group. Well, it depends on what president, where, and when appoints these individuals to their office and how they go about getting it. And we ask these questions about, there was a while back, and I'm not going to go on a monologue, but, Sissy, I mean, what's going on in our country? Right. I mean, this is getting...
it's gone to hell. Well, I mean, it's just gone to hell.
Is there justice? At a local level, there may be justice, but when it gets up the line, there's no justice for you and me against somebody who's quite potentially elected official when it comes to that. I mean, obviously, if they knew the Bidens were doing what they were doing, and they do know this, okay, and we all know this now, and this is all on Front Street now. This is not breaking news from Harvey County Talk, okay? Right. This is just, if you're informed and you're paying attention, you're finding out that this is what's happening. And I'm just asking myself, who assassinated JFK? I mean, now I'm starting to wonder.
Well, it's more than just Lee Harvey Oswald.
Well, let's ask the question about whether you fit into the agenda of what the bureaucracy wants for you to be doing, and then how that factors in. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think, I honestly think that the bureaucratic part of our government, and I'll say it again, I've said it before in the past, beware of the,
alphabet agencies. Yeah. Yeah.
And as they just consume more power.
I think that they have been given the freedom to grow themselves organically, and the lines have been blurred between agencies when and I'm not going to say it was the Patriot Act, but I'm going to say that's probably when the barriers to citizen protection were completely nullified and taken away. We're 22 and a half years from 9/11 when, the Patriot Act came about. We have the alphabet agencies now are their own arm of the government. They're their own arm, right? I call it the fourth branch. Everybody says, "Oh, it's the media is the fourth estate or the fourth branch of the government." No. The media is just the mouthpiece, and it's whatever they want to be put out.
Yeah,
and that's why I'm all about the First Amendment. I'm all about journalists. I'm all about, get yourself out there. Everybody carries a recording device in their hand. Everybody carries a video camera in their hand, and everybody is connected to some way of uploading that. Now, recently the Biden administration says that they're passing, no, it was an executive order about AI regulation, right? Mm-hmm. Excuse me. I know we talked about that briefly, and we encourage people to go check it out. Dive into that. That's a whole rabbit hole for you. That'll probably take you a couple weeks to figure it all out. If we know all these things that we just said, and then we know that the individuals of the world, of the United States, the individual citizen journalists that are out there, trying to get the truth out, trying to get real-time information out to people, and really, really be exposing of the reality of that's happening, not some agenda that they might have other than to speak the truth and to go against the grain of the narrative, right?
Yeah.
And take that sidestep, right? Why not now the government say, "Oh, we got to regulate AI because what you see might not be what is being put out there." You see how the narrative shifted?
Yeah.
Now they're saying, well, AI is actually ours to tell you then what is AI, good AI, and what's bad AI.
Yes.
And they have the power, right?
Yeah.
Because the regulation involves creation of AI, which means all of the AI producers, not individual citizens, Musk and ChatGPT. Musk just started Grok, which is the X Grok.
Okay.
It's an AI platform on Twitter, on X, excuse me. There's ChatGPT. There's a whole bunch of them. Now they all, just like with the internet, all these platforms now have to be compliant to the White House. Right.
See,
the White House should not have the ability
to do that. That goes back to what I was talking about at a local level.
That's an unequal authority.
Yes.
That's an unequal power to Congress and the judiciary. The legislative, that's unequal. That's the executive order. And I'm telling you, if there's one thing, forget abolishing the Electoral College. If there is one thing that I'd like to see abolished, that's the executive order. It needs to not happen. No, it just doesn't.
Uh-oh.
And that is a whole nother show.
That's a whole nother revolutionary, Sissy?
No, I just want to go back to before our president started to rule like a monarch.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
I agree.
Right.
But like I said, that's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, folks.
And speaking of other shows that I'm sure we're going to bring this up again, but the most recent I heard in the Israeli war against Hamas and our involvement is that there was a drone of ours that was shot down by Syria. It was an Iranian installation, supposedly, in Syria that did that. And so we just bombed the installation.
Yeah.
And so now what we have is we have another country. I mean, I'm almost to the point, and I am so pro-Israel. You can't imagine, because I know this. The same people that want to extinguish Israel off the face of the map are the same people that once Jews are gone will be doing it to Christians. Okay? That's not all. That's not everybody. But that is the individuals that believe that they're justified in handing down a terrorist attack on Israel for any reason. And then when that happens and they're successful in wiping Israel off the map, you don't think they're going to turn for Christians next? And it gets very, very questionable very quickly. And I'm just wondering, our presence in the Middle East right now, doing what we're doing and positioning the way we are, is making a lot of people very unhappy. And it's just another way that the U.S., in their opinion, if you're watching national news right now, is us getting involved where we shouldn't be getting involved. And so that's quite the predicament, folks. And we're not in a place where I think we can run out in the United States and fight World War III. So be thinking about that.
Yeah.
Not to end on a heavy note, Sissy, but we were ending on a heavy note.
I can end us on a good note.
Okay, end us on a good one.
Because you always turn it over to me at the end.
Yes, that's right.
Speak to the hearts and minds of the viewers.
So what you're saying is this is your chance to speak directly to the hearts and minds of those listening right now, Sissy. And here's what Sissy has.
Indeed. Okay, so folks, we have the precious fur babies, or doggos, or cattos, or whatever, all pet life in amongst our daily life. And coming up on Thanksgiving, there's always some do's and don'ts on what scraps or treats you feed especially your dogs. And the social media's had a really good picture here. So I just wanted to read some of the safe options and the unsafe options for dogs specifically. So safe options would be sweet potatoes, pumpkin, apples with no seeds, turkey meat, and green beans. Unsafe options are mashed potatoes, stuffing, gravy, turkey bones and skin, and ham. So
really,
for more information, you can search cakenews.com and see that article for yourself. And I took that from this morning off the Facebook.
Our news from the neighbors to the south.
Yep.
So, our news from the neighbors
good information
to the
know.
south. Yeah. That is interesting. I'm going to need to look at that. I'm going to go there and look at that because I have a beloved Bailey, and she gets scraps, because, I mean, come on. The dog only lives once, okay? Yeah. And I know I'm told, don't do it. And I just think, man, for all the things that a dog gets to do in their life, and the best thing that they could ever have or enjoy is just some ice cream once in a while. Or maybe some pork chop. Or,
pork chop without the bone in it.
Yeah, of course. Right. Just, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
love your pets, people.
Be thankful for your pet and let them be thankful that they have you to take good care of them.
Yep. All right. All right, Sissy. Well, thanks for listening to this episode of HC Talk. I was your host, Lance Gormley.
And I was your co-host, Sissy.
We'll catch you next week, everybody.